Agent Morris with the NSA.
There is something real here.
Did you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had the people with the first-hand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General. Biologics came to some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Those could represent exquisite new adversary technology.
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
The government is covering up some level of its knowledge and understanding about what some of those things are.
The Sol Foundation, which just announced a new initiative for UFO research and policy.
It's nuts, man. I mean, we're just small-town buds who saw a UFO in the woods. I mean, now we're hanging out with the government.
Wow. What floor were you guys on?
Hello and welcome to Anomaly-NOW, the weekly, sometimes live, news and media roundup for the 501c3 nonprofit Anomaly Archives, aka the Scientific Anomaly Institute. I'm your host, Miles Lewis, transmitting to you, not live this time, from Austin, Texas. It is Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. It is with heavy heart that we get back on the airwaves here, such as they are in the midst of the tragedy unfolding here in central Texas with the ongoing floods. The floods have ceased, but it is still raining on and off again here in Austin and around central Texas. As you've likely heard, there are over 100 dead and I think over 160 still missing. It's a very dire, bad situation, and whatever you think about laying blame, just know that there are people hurting and hopefully you can help them. We'll try to post some links to services that you can contribute to in the show notes for tonight's show. All right. Well, coming up this weekend, we've got some interesting events that we'll be tabling at. They're not really associated with the Anomaly Archives per se, but we'll be happy to be there with some great folks from around Austin. And we'll get to that in just a second. You can, of course, go to our website, anomalyarchives.org, as well as our flipboard.com/@anomalyarchives magazine news feed, where we flip all the news links that we come across that we think are worthy of being archived and read by you and others. Not all of them. I don't read everything. Obviously, it is hard to keep up with all this stuff, but there's just a ton of news there that you can check out. Lots of stuff that we're not going to get to today. I need to keep this very brief here today on this Wednesday, July 9th. So yeah, go to anomalyarchives.org and there's links there that go over to our Flipboard. Oh, and please check out this wonderful video put together by Bill Darman, who was there to film this weird, interesting, anomalous event up there in the Northeast. International Cryptozoology Museum meets Scooby-Doo Day as the Portland Sea Dogs at Hadlock Field have their opening of the season, and fellow podcaster Tim Banal, as well as international Fortean cryptozoologist who is an interest in UFOs, Lauren Coleman, was there. Anyway, Bill Darman videoed the whole thing and put together a nice little video. You should check that out. All kinds of great, crazy links over at our Flipboard page. So check that out. And of course, we encourage you to go to our website, anomalyarchives.org, as well as our patreon.com/anomalyarchives page. We'll get to all that in just a minute. But yeah, jumping over to our Anomaly Archives page, we announced that we'll be doing some outreach this weekend, Friday, July 11th, as well as Saturday, July 12th. Coming up Friday night is Saul Rosencraft's latest, his number 2, his second Damned show. That's July 11th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. for vendors. We're going to be there along with the wonderful vendors. We're not selling anything, but we're just doing public education. Glad to show our support and to be witnesses to Saul's amazing Damned show, which is described as a live immersive experience that is part late night talk show, part Pee-wee's Playhouse of the Damned. This variety spectacle is your gateway to the strange, the surreal, and what lurks in the shadows. Hosted by Saul Ravencraft, Austin's own wizard provocateur, the night unfolds like a shroud. And in fact, here is a little video promo for that.
Tired of the everyday routine? Ever dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all?
All right. Yeah, that's coming up Friday night. Check it out. Tickets are available online or for $20 at the door. They're at Nature's Treasures new event center up there on North Interstate Highway 35. That's 11055 North Interstate Highway 35. We've got links there to the website, damnedshow.com, DAMNEDSHOW.com. Saul Ravencraft's Damned Show. And coming up the next day, we're going to be over at South Lamar in Austin, Texas. That's going to be a new event called Airwaves and Outreach Nonprofit Fair. This is sponsored by Co-op, the 91.7 FM community radio station that's so awesome. It's been around forever. And TexPop ATX, who are located there at the address where this is happening. That's 1516 South Lamar. You might know it as the place right next door to Planet K, that Ed novelty shop there on South Lamar. It's been there forever. Anyway, this is coming up Saturday, July 12th from 5 to 9 p.m. It's going to be live music, showcases, and vendors. The vendors, of course, are mainly going to be the nonprofit organizations who support Co-op and the community across Austin, Texas, and we'll be tabling there as well. So this actually is a reminiscent of, this is the same location where we, back 15 years ago, held a summer sci-fi film festival where every few Saturdays, every couple of weeks, we would have a big festival event there in the parking lot, and we would show some UFO-related anomalous film, and I give a little introduction to the Anomaly Archives. It was a great, fun event and a great fun event venue. Now, you should know that if you go, you'll need to park nearby over at the Snooze AM parking lot that's across the street. But if you go to our website right now and click on the link to this post about Anomaly Archives events for July 11th and 12th, you'll see the flyer and links below that to the TexPop ATX event at 1516 South Lamar Boulevard, Austin, Texas. That's Saturday, July 12th, 5 to 9 p.m. and with links to the parking lot as well as the TexPop ATX venue. So check it out. Love that poster. And so moving right along, again, we really encourage you to go to our Anomaly Archives Patreon page. That's patreon.com/Anomaly Archives. And we've recently integrated our podcast, our audio-only version of this show, the audio-only podcast, into the membership. So if you are a membership, even at the free level, you get access to a special podcast feed. That's the audio-only version of the podcast. I mean, you can subscribe elsewhere if you have other preferred podcatcher platforms that you use. You can use those. But actually, I think if you subscribe free, you can get your own personal RSS feed that you can plug into those same podcatchers, I think. Anyway, check it out. We're also adding some special members-only audio to that special RSS podcast feed that isn't available on the more public, already out there audio-only version of the podcast feed. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that's over at our patreon.com, where we've also been posting a number of new bits and information. Let's see, last month we re-released the June 2024 lecture by Brent Raynes. That was our inaugural lecture for our monthly Anomaly Academy online live lecture series. We'll be shortly releasing to the public an audio enhanced version and a public version of our July presentation from last year that featured Professor Wham talking about congratulations, you're a paranormal investigator, and where she focused on the works of Jacques Vallée, John Keel, Paul Eno, and Eugenia Macer Story. We're really looking forward to that. We recently released my lecture from 1995 at Berkeley University, Encounters with the Fantastic, the Transformative UFO Paradigm. That's audio and text of my presentation back then in 1995. And we just recently released what you're looking at now, which is this Terence McKenna's Fractal Soliton of Improbability discussion that I had with our good friend Robert Larson, my good friend Robert Larson, who was the host of Cartoon Pleroma back in the day on KUCI FM in Irvine, California, back in the 1990s and into maybe 99 or 2000. But then post 9/11, he started a new show called Out the Rabbit Hole. And you can find information about all of these shows and these people, Robert Larson, Greg Bishop, etc. Pretty much anybody we mention, we try to have a page for them on the anomalyarchives.org website. But yes, we've posted a video, an enhanced audio version of a video that I released many, many, many years ago, back when YouTube made you break them up into separate, shorter videos. And it's all now into one video. And this is where it's from a radio show where Robert Larson and I were talking about Terence McKenna's ideas about a great time stream bifurcation event in humanity's history, and this idea that also has been expressed as a fractal soliton of improbability. Without going into all that, it's a really fun discussion between Robert Larson and I about this subject that really intrigued us. We were on the air live in September of 2009 talking about this, and you get a listen to that. This is actually just half of the show. There was an earlier part of the show where we were just talking about all the other subjects that we were interested in. But with the release of this, what I commented to our patrons, and I'm sharing with the public, here's what I wrote, because it seemed like it was kind of prescient, not or resonant, synchronistically speaking. June 30th, 2025 marks the 117th anniversary of the Great Mystery Explosion over Siberia in 1908, aka the Tunguska event, of what most have come to believe was the largest asteroid impact in recorded history. In the following days, the media has begun reporting on the discovery of Comet 3I Atlas, or 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object we have seen in the solar system, the first being Oumuamua back in 2017, which was, quote, the first confirmed interstellar object detected passing through the solar system, unquote. These two resonant events also occurred between the bookends of the two different World UFO Days, one being June 24th, which I personally prefer, and the other being July 2nd, with the earliest mainstream reporting I can find coming from Avi Loeb's blog and New Scientist magazine on July 2nd. Back on September 3rd, 2009, I had a discussion with Out the Rabbit Hole radio show host Robert Larson about Terence McKenna's wild idea about our bifurcated reality caused by a fractal soliton of improbability. This hypothesis of McKenna's was inspired by a vision he had during meditation, and which involves an alternate explanation for the 1908 Tunguska blast that incorporates bifurcated time streams, alternate histories, Siberian psychedelic shamanism, and the UFO phenomenon. The source material for this wild idea was not readily accessible in 2009 and stemmed from an analog cassette tape recording of a Terence McKenna talk that I'd been gifted back in the 1990s. Since that time, with the rise of McKenna's fandom, this material has proliferated in the form of YouTube videos and podcasts and even song lyrics propagating this theory. So strap in for a weird, wild ride. A transcript of our discussion plus links galore to the proliferating original source material are below, as well as links to news articles referenced above. So yeah, as indicated, over at thedebrief.org, there is this headline: NASA satellite images reveal mysterious blast site of 1908 Tunguska event that scorched remote Siberia. That's from June 30th by Michael Hanks. And also over at the debrief by Avi Loeb, which is reproduced over at his personal blog as well. On July 2nd and July 3rd, astronomers are tracking a massive new interstellar object that just entered our solar system. This is that 3I Atlas, or C2025N1. I think they've settled on the 3I Atlas name, but yeah, interstellar objects, possibly a comet, maybe just an asteroid, and its synchrony with the anniversary of the largest object to impact the Earth that we're aware of, that being the Tunguska event, and good old McKenna's crazy ideas about these subjects. Here's that New Scientist article from July 2nd. Interstellar comet hurling through solar system named 3I Atlas. An object from another star has been seen entering the solar system at high speed and is expected to whip around the sun in the coming months, by Matthew Sparks. Yes. All right, folks. Resuming where I left off. There's this interesting online free magazine available called Phenomena-Magazine over at awakeningevents.co.uk/phenomena-magazine. You can go check that out there. We'll provide the link, of course. I'm not that familiar with this, but this is their June 2025 issue, number 191. Biggest headline: astonishing cases of shape-shifting UFOs, with articles ranging from the ghosts of Hinching-Brook House in this exclusive article magazine. Proofreader Ben Wilson gives us the lowdown on one of his local haunts and what happened when he investigated there overnight. The headline article about shape-shifting UFOs. Another article, The Darker Side of the Paranormal Thinking of Dusting Off That Ouija Board from the Loft. Psychic medium Jock Brokus warns us that we should never take such decisions lightly. And lots of other material there. And if you click the link, it'll take you over to the PDF version hosted by on Google Drive that you can look at for free. That's pretty awesome. Love that folks are providing that kind of material still. Now, I'm speaking of providing material. I've mentioned before a UFO researcher named Richard Geldreich Jr., who I was made aware of by an acquaintance, and he's posted recently this post: Frank Scully's digitized archive, now live on archive.org. This is really amazing. So, if you go over to anomalyarchives.org, we do have a links page where we have a whole directory of quote unquote other archives, specifically archives that deal with UFOs, the paranormal, parapsychology, anomalous information. A lot of them are just mainstream universities and colleges and their special collections that host the papers of this or that famous UFO researcher or experiencer or witness, that sort of thing. But there are some independent archives linked there as well. It's a growing archive directory, and I just recently updated it with this information. So Frank Scully's materials were already archived at one of these big universities. In fact, this article points that out. But this gentleman, Richard Geldreich Jr., paid somebody to go and digitize that material on his behalf. And apparently the library, I guess, was cool with this. As it says here, his physical archive is housed in Laramie, Wyoming at the American Heritage Center, AHC, and it gives a collection. It's 34 boxes. There's indexes of it. All of this, of course, we had links to already. And he says, part of the University of Wyoming, I had it carefully digitized by an experienced proxy researcher recommended by the AHC, by this very institution. It's a large archive, so I focused primarily on digitizing material from around 1949 onward that might be useful to UAP researchers. There are also numerous well-preserved audio tapes, some of which I've already had digitized and uploaded to YouTube. This is so wonderful of him to do, and he then provides the link to that YouTube channel and the specific audio digitized work, as well as, I believe it's 7 uploads of digitized material to archive.org, which you can see here. Part 1, Frank Scully Papers, Part 1 of 7, and on to a variety of other sections. Part 6, Frank Scully, American Heritage Center Archive, Part 6. And Part 5, I actually already have open here, and you can see here at the Internet Archive, archive.org, what that kind of looks like. And oh man, it's really cool to have access to this material. Especially this looks like a schematic for the cross section of a UFO. What's that all about? Well, go to that link and read for yourself. Check it out. All right. Meanwhile, our good friend Micah Hanks continues to do great work. And there's been so many interesting developments, and there's just no time to cover it all. As there's several things that have come up with regards to ARROW, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the controversies that have surrounded it, its first head, Sean Kirkpatrick, its interim deputy head, Tim Phillips, who's been speaking out publicly recently and providing some very interesting information, as well as these claims that are coming out from various sources, including Ross Coulthart, Stephen Greer, and some politicians who say that they've all been told or know somehow that the Tic Tac is in fact a piece of Lockheed Martin technology. Sentinel News at sentinelnews.substack.com has posted this article written by Baptiste Friscourt. In a July 7th, 2025 interview with Bryce Zabel, journalist Ross Coulthart revealed the reasons behind the strong secrecy surrounding UAP technologies. Several video outlets are reposting video compiled, I think, by Red Panda Koala, this online user who collates a lot of interesting UFO, UAP information. And yes, there's video of Stephen Greer talking to Jesse Michaels. There's video of the politician whose name escapes me on this other, some would say conservative, some would say otherwise leaning show. God, I cannot remember the name of it. Anyway, we've got the links. I'm not going to play that video, but that's all very interesting stuff. And as I mentioned, Micah Hanks has in his X podcast for July 6th talked about the case of the missing Nimitz data. This is something I think I referred to in a previous show when I was talking about this excellent interview by Mick West of former deputy interim ARROW director Tim Phillips, where he talks about many different topics, but specifically he says that they had investigated information that seemed to show that it was probably DARPA officials who were the ones who took the tapes, the evidence, the hard drives of the Tic Tac incident from the vessels there that were part of that engagement, that encounter. And as several people point out, but as Micah specifically points out in this special X podcast, it may not be as clear cut as that, but it definitely contradicts what Sean Kirkpatrick has said and what the report, I believe, says. So again, there's real conflicting stories here, but there is some seemingly new information floating around. Whether it's reliable or not remains to be seen. While I'm here, I do also want to acknowledge this situation that's developed with Wiki banning thedebrief.org, Micah Hanks and others' news outlet, as being unreliable and not having any kind of editorial process, all of which I would say are absolutely untrue. And in fact, I have repeatedly, by mentioning their work and Micah's work, calling it some of the most journalistic stuff out there in terms of UAP investigative journalistic reporting. It's some of the best stuff. When people have asked me very recently, you seem very suspicious of so many of the different modern channels of UFO information, UAP information that are so popular. And I'm like, well, they're like, who do you trust? And the one person I can absolutely say that I trust is Micah Hanks. And I think his work, especially through the debrief, has been most excellent. And so it's very frustrating and just makes me actually very angry to hear about the way that certain ideologue wiki users are ramrodding Micah Hanks's journalism and his work with the debrief out of their records. I mean, obviously Wikipedia is not a perfect source of information. It's long been troubled by a variety of issues, not least of which are people who these gangs of folks who manage and get deleted stuff that they think is not worthy of being there, or is in fact that they think disinformation, misinformation, or just false information. And that appears to be the case. And I think that the debrief has a really solid case that they can launch against Wiki, that whether it leads to legal action or not, I think it just proves the point that it's clear that the decision process that led to them being banned as a reliable or fact-based news source shows just how lacking in the very things that Wiki is being critical of that they are, that they didn't even do their journalistic due diligence to confirm their allegations or suspicions. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, I'll provide a link to Micah's Wiki Wars, The Stigma Strikes Back episode, the July 1st episode of his Micah Hanks podcast. And I suspect there will be more information soon via thedebrief.org. And yes, and I'll provide the links to this Sentinel News article, as well as a video that I mentioned that has the collection of those different videos referencing Lockheed Martin being the source of the Tic Tac tech. Not saying that I believe it or not, but I did want to play this other video from a news outlet. I think it's a Canadian news outlet that I really was excited to see this. It's very brief. Check this out.
What is it? It's going for a long time.
A ball of light hovers over a field.
Looks like a fireball, but not really. It's the wrong color.
And this couple from Rich Valley, Alberta, was mesmerized.
After a rather vicious lightning strike, we saw the ball of fire kind of retain, 20 feet above the ground.
The cell phone video was captured an hour northwest of Edmonton by Ed and Melinda Party. It shows the ball of light for about 20 seconds before it disintegrates. They were under a tornado watch and experiencing a thunderstorm Wednesday evening when they saw this about a kilometer away from their home.
Yeah, it was moving horizontally above the ground. Incredibly bright, too.
It was very bright.
It was really bright.
Off in the distance, they see something glowing there.
But what exactly is it? According to one scientist, it could be ball lightning or a form of it.
Sometimes you can get that plasma itself or region of plasma to just linger for a little while. And sometimes that plasma itself, if it's in a ball shape, they call it ball lightning.
It's a rare phenomenon that can be produced from intense lightning. But why it's caused is still something scientists are trying to determine.
What are the right conditions to actually make this phenomenon happen? We don't know, because again, it's such a really rare event and it's not very well understood.
Florian believes that although this weather event is rare, we could see more of it.
The more and more severe storms that we're getting across the prairies, there might be greater chances of other people witnessing these phenomena as well.
The parties say they're lucky to experience an extraordinary event not many people have.
I was glad it was far away from our house, though, because I don't think I'd want to get near that, because that's a lot of power in there.
Cabby Theron, Global News.
Right. So that really excites me. I don't know if that's ball lightning. That is the biggest example of it I think I've ever seen. And of course, I don't know that I've ever seen any examples of it, but the most descriptions have been much smaller. Perhaps the size is misrepresentation due to the brightness, and even though it's distant from the camera, that somehow it's just appearing much bigger than it actually was, just by virtue of the brightness of it. Anyway, moving right along, going back to some UAP news, two news articles from John Greenwald Jr. over at theblackvault.com. That's theblackvault.com. FOIA response reveals contact between Arrow and Enigma Labs. Details remain largely redacted. Surprise, surprise. So this is very interesting. You can cull through the documents and make your own decision as to whether it's relevant or interesting or important. But as has been suggested by others, as we've relayed to you in previous episodes reported on, in previous episodes. There is a lot to be worried about with regards to Enigma Labs and their connection to quasi-governmental individuals and, in this case, governmental organizations. One of the things that is apparently in this documentation that I only am aware of because of listening to that other podcast I mentioned quite frequently, Patterns Tell Stories, with hosts Garrett and Klaus. Klaus was pointing out that in the documents and the emails that were released through this FOIA effort, there are references to privacy data pipelines, and his inference is that they're talking about pipelines created by companies that are basically sub-companies of Palantir, the Peter Thiel Corporation. And as we've already reported in previous episodes, there are concerns that Thiel-connected individuals are very much at the heart of the birth of this Enigma Labs. I would say this is all speculation. You can go to our website and find the links to this and other information and judge for yourselves. But it's interesting as these puzzle pieces are slowly uncovered. And it was Klaus who again reminded me, and I have not been able to verify this, but he says that Sean Kirkpatrick is or was on the advisory board of New Vista Capital, and the co-founder of New Vista Capital was the original seed funder of Enigma Labs, which is essentially a Peter Thiel company. And meanwhile, and I don't know where the source of this is, but apparently Jesse Michaels, who is the friend of Peter Thiel's at the very least, who may in fact be his American Alchemy podcast may actually be funded by Peter Thiel, but both of them are in venture capital. So I'm sure Jesse Michaels has the money perhaps to do this himself, but allegedly there has been an offer of $100,000 to Sean Kirkpatrick to appear on Jesse Michaels' American Alchemy podcast. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's very, very interesting. All right. The other article from theblackvault.com is this one that just came out today. Navy withheld nearly 500 pages about UAP video release decision. Records show FOIA pressure drove disclosure. This is pretty interesting, I think. And maybe it's just John Greenwald patting himself on the back and reading too much into this, but I think he's probably correct that it appears that from what he was able to get released, it does appear that it wasn't the Navy or the military going, oh, see, we're so wonderful, we want to be transparent, here are these videos, when they posted them on their website after there was a call for their release. No, the internal decision-making documentation, at least that which has been released, does appear to suggest that this was because of the pressure being applied by people like, and specifically, John Greenwald Jr. As he says, records now confirm the long suspected reason that it was a direct result of FOIA pressure initiated by a request filed by the Black Vault in May 2019. If the content of the videos is as innocuous, what justified keeping nearly 500 pages of emails and legal memos entirely from public view, and why, if the objects depicted posed no extraordinary implications, did it take FOIA pressure and a prolonged review process to force the government's hand? Despite having already leaked years prior, the official release of the videos appears to have triggered extensive internal debate and hesitation. That level of secrecy and legal shielding could indicate there was more concern internally about the nature of these encounters than has been publicly acknowledged. The question remains, if there's nothing extraordinary in these videos, why go to such extraordinary lengths to conceal the process that led to their release? The withholding of 498 pages has been appealed by the Black Vault. Yeah, this just came out today. But yeah, he's basically saying that despite what other news outlets like Forbes in April 2020 said, Forbes even called the Navy release, quote, a step that comes after years of progress towards government transparency surrounding unidentified flying objects, unquote. And Greenwald says, but that wasn't true. In reality, as noted in a 2020 article published by the Black Vault, at the time of the video release, the Navy added the files to its website and then answered the long pending FOIA request from the Black Vault later the same day. The timing gave the public the impression that the release was part of a transparency initiative, but these internal records show the Navy had no choice. FOIA requirements and legal review had backed them into a corner. Okay, well, again, you can go to anomalyarchives.org or flipboard.com/anomalyarchives. You can go to our website where we'll post the links to tonight's show notes, all the links that we've referenced in the news articles that we've talked about. And hopefully, if you're in the Central Texas area, you might take some time to come take part and watch Saul Ravencrest's Damned show number 2 this July 11th, Friday, 7:30 p.m. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. We'll the Anomaly Archives be tabling there. And then, of course, the next day we'll be tabling at 1516 South Lamar at the TexPop ATX location here in South Austin for the Co-op and TexPop ATX Airwaves and Outreach Nonprofit Fair. We really hope you'll come and check us out, and hope you have a wonderful and safe time. Please be careful out there. Again, with the, I'd say, increasingly crazy weather that, yes, is most certainly the result of climate change. We all need to be more vigilant and careful. And be careful, beware, and we'll see you soon next week.